call the meeting to order. It is 7:04. Not in attendance is Anita. And first order of business is where we will have the health department's going to do the presentation.
Hey, board, this is Felicity from the health department. He's going to be talking to us about point of service, right? Point of dispensing antibiotics. I will be fully told. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm with the Health Department, the Florida Department of Health in Palm Beach County. I was told that I have to try to limit my remarks so they can go on with the rest of the agenda. So I'll proceed immediately into my presentation. Please kindly hold your questions to the end and do the best we can to accommodate all questions. Like with everything else, you have to start off with a risk message. And our message is similar to what FDR had said years and years ago. Can you see the screen in the back? Can you hear me as well? A little voice. So in the words of FDR, we have nothing to fear but everything that is now current and present. And when we printed the slide, we never knew what Ebola was. Now it's become a very popular thing. So by way of introduction, the Centers for Disease Control have a stockpile of pharmaceuticals that will be made available in the event that we have need, in the event of a antibiotic bioterrorist attack or just a biological episode in any public emergency. Program that we're going to talk to you about is the City's Readiness Initiative. This is a program which makes these antibiotics available to the population of our county. Our responsibility in the health department is to make sure that everybody in the county is offered antibiotics within a 48-hour period from the time of declaration of the emergency. I'm sorry for the lack of interaction between my computer and the screen over here. But nevertheless, I'm going to go through rapidly this pictograms for what took place in 2001 at the AMI building, the American Media building, down in Boca Raton. The letter came and was deposited on the desk of the photographer. And unfortunately, there was powder in it. He accidentally opened up the envelope and deposited the powder on the desk. The rest is history. Within 3 weeks, the poor man was dead. The powder turned out to be anthrax spores. He inhaled them, and he became sick, and within 3 weeks, he died. This was just 3 weeks after 9/11 had taken place. Devastation in New York. Just going quickly around the view over here. Lower left-hand corner, picture of the building. Middle picture over there. Letters not only to Tom Brokaw and NBC, but also to Senators Batchelor and to me. And the letters were similar in content. We have this anthrax, we die now, that to America, that to all others great. And the FBI made a case, and they were after some of the scientists, and so they drove him there, insane enough that he committed suicide before his trial. Decontamination unit in the upper right-hand corner. And then the quarantine, this is from the Health Department, our department. The Environmental Health Director is posting the quarantine notice in the decontamination of the building. It took about 3 or 4 months. And then lastly, the most important portion of it was antibiotics were handed out to everybody who worked in the building and everybody who visited that building for 2 weeks. As you can count on that blister pack, there are 10 pills on that blister pack. This was a 10-day course. Actually, we have 2 blisters of that because the dose was to be twice a day for 10 days. August of 2005, the Centers for Disease Control designated Palm Beach County as a CRI county with the mandate that everyone living in the county, at least the population count, 1.3 million people, would receive these antibiotics as preventative medication within a 48-hour span. We needed 45 public points of dispensing, 5,400 volunteers, a task which we knew going in we wouldn't be able to achieve. So what we did is we recognized that there were residential communities like your own whom we could possibly approach, and they could possibly recruit their own volunteers to assist in the dispensing program. And that's why I'm here this evening to present that program to you. We developed this hybrid program in order to reduce the total number of people needed throughout the county, and we created what we call these closed points of dispensing, a closed pod, if you will. So we now have 51 closed communities, and the dispensing of the medication is done by their own volunteers under the supervision of a medical practitioner from within their community. If you're unable to provide such an individual, let us know, and we can make arrangements with the Palm Beach County Medical Society through the Medical Reserve Corps to have somebody on site during this particular event, if God forbid there is one. So we now have 51 closed communities. So what's the impact of that? Once we take out the first responders, the first receivers, law enforcement, fire rescue, people in nursing homes, people in assisted living facilities, in the hospitals, they account for approximately 25% of the population, they and their families. And they allow them to reach even their extended families for up to 15 people per household. These closed points of dispensing account for over 40% of the total population of the county, which leaves a third of the population to be visited by the rest of the communities. The rest of the population who do not have the resources of a car. This just gives you a rough array of one segment of the county. It's down in just around the area of the Civic Center, Jog Road, and the green dots are the public places where the general public would go to receive their medication. They'd be transported there because vehicular traffic would not be permitted. And then you see little purple dots and purple labels along the way. Those will be closed pods. And this is as of 2008. Sorry for that delay. So we have another picture over here which shows you just what the material looks like when it's received.
Wow.
Those people are just not hanging out. Those people are ready to receive the material which comes in these metal cabinets called wet signs, and they contain the medication, which is sorted by the two medications that will be made available: doxycycline and Cipro. They would come in. I meant to bring a bottle, a package of brick along with me. They come in rectangular bottles, and each contains a unit of use, which is a 10-day course of medication, 20 tablets in each of those little bottles. You have approximately 600 households here in this community, and I see that you have children living in the community as well. We probably would multiply those 600 by a factor of approximately 7, 6.5, 7, and we would arrange to deliver 4,200 unit doses of this medication, broken up between the doxycycline and the Cipro, based on guidance that we communicate with the CDC and the workers the quantities that we need. This material is shelf stable. You do not have to store it. It's delivered under the supervision of the Sheriff's Department, and it's controlled by the Emergency Operations Center, the people who operate over on Gun Club Road, Club Road, as you call it, the Gun Club Road. On that one. But they're the ones that are in charge of the whole logistical operation. They receive the material, they break it down, and they sort it according to the allocations and we make based on the census information in the respective communities. Here they are, the DEM, the Division of Emergency Management, take charge of all this logistics under our guidance, under our supervision. First responders and the first receivers pick up their own material and they distribute it to their own agencies so that we reduce the burden on having to traffic all this stuff through the county itself. And they control and they pick it along the way. If you're interested and you want to do a little exercise, this is a 45-minute interactive program on floridasns.com. It's an interactive program, it's a certificate on it if you choose to be involved. But most importantly, the great concern that the communities have is what about liability? We provide a registration form, it's a volunteer application, which is sanctioned by the state of Florida under Florida statute. And all volunteers become volunteers for the state, and they're covered by the state's waiver of sovereign immunity. So you can't be sued under it. You're acting in the same way an employee of the state is covered for liability coverage. The limits set forth on the Florida statute. So Chapter 110.504 is the characteristic. Volunteers get volunteer badges, ID badges with their photo on it, and they're landed so they identify who they are. So when they come into the pod, the point of dispensing, the supervisors and the people in the section chiefs will be given vests to wear for identification. The volunteers will have their photo ID and they'll be trained in their responsibilities by the health department. We would need a minimum of 2 training sessions of about 1 hour each, and then we would ask if you felt comfortable enough, we would do a drill and exercise to make sure that the volunteers are comfortable with their task. Handing out forms, going through the registration process, making the dispensing decision. And our registration form is quite simple in the sense that we cover major medical conditions with the decision associated with it. If necessary, we refer the patient, the client, to their own physician for follow-up on an evaluation to make sure that they know how to use the medication that is provided based on the medical conditions. So, Chapter 110 is a key element. Waiver of sovereign immunity comes under 768, and the department as an agency of the state agrees to be fully responsible for our own negligent act as well as any negligent act that takes place during the dispensing of the medication to the limits set forth. No officer, employee, or agent of the state or the subdivision shall be held personally liable in any employment. So the homeowners association also becomes a volunteer by virtue of leasing a portion of their property. If this was to be a dispensing site, you would lease this property, portion of your property to us, and the passageways through this location in order to do the dispensing and the district itself. That lease agreement is part of the memorandum of agreement that I sent through Chris for the board's consideration. The only caveat to that is certainly that there is no willful misconduct in the dispensing of the medication itself. Any personal volunteers to perform a service for a non-profit shall be considered an agent of that organization itself. So I thank you for your attention, and I just wanted to add that all volunteers in our program are the first ones to receive their medication after the volunteers get their own. Any questions, please?
I have 2 really quick ones.
Yes, ma'am.
How much is the lease? How much would you be leasing for? How much income would we receive for the lease?
You get nothing, we give you nothing.
Okay.
No contractual arrangement.
No problem. Just checking.
Exchange of money. This is a program which is free. The material that we receive is the CPC. Okay, you paid for it in your tax dollars.
Okay. And the only other question I have is, what you're talking about here is bacterial, right? what we're experiencing currently on all these viruses would not apply?
There is no vaccine for Ebola presently, and we're dealing with biological diseases over here, so we're dealing with antibiotics and not vaccines.
So a bacterial
In
infection.
2001, we were dealing with vaccines where we made arrangements to bring nurses in to do the vaccinations. We need professionals, licensed professionals, to do the vaccinations, otherwise it's a no-go.
Okay.
Yes, sir, Madam.
How do you prevent cross-contamination of people coming into our community that are infected, and how do you prevent yourself from becoming infected and spreading it to those that are not getting antibiotics?
Okay, long question.
That's not a long question, sir.
I'll try to give you a short answer. Okay? As best as you can, you control outside your neighbors from not within your own community at your own gate. Nobody will know that you are a cooperating or a closed party. We won't tell anybody who you are except the people who need to know, the security people.
You
If
just
it's
showed us all on a
necessary.
map.
Say?
You just showed all of us on a map.
I gave you an illustration. Okay, that's outdated, that's 2008. I'm not sure if you could read each of those names. Okay? But nevertheless, I mean, if you got me, you got me. I'll give up.
It's close, so
Nobody would be invited to the neighborhood, it's only for the neighborhood only, right?
Your employees and your residents are the people who receive the medication here.
No outside people.
So it wouldn't be publicized?
Except, of course, some communities do have caregivers coming to them, and therefore they're included in part of their household.
It's not open gate for other people.
No, it's not. Okay, you list your own residents in your home. If you have a family member living down the road, all the way down in Boynton Beach forever, or wherever, wherever it might be, you make your own arrangements, you pick up medication for them, you make arrangements to meet them, and you get information from them so that it can be reported on the registration. Now, you had a second part to your question.
that was my question.
The only one.
I'm sorry?
That was the only part of
You
the
answered,
security question.
you answered my question was, how do you prevent the cross-contamination? You said by keeping people at the gate, that doesn't keep the cross-contamination from happening.
You mentioned the word contamination, and just let me assert, please, that anthrax is not communicable. You can't get it from one person to the next like you can anyone of the diseases that require vaccination. Flu season is coming upon us. Flu is a contagious disease. You need to do non-pharmaceutical interventions, separation of space, so that you don't cross-contaminate others. That's why you use the word contamination and alert it to some other side. So, it's non-communicable, and this is preventative medication. We have an epidemiological department which is monitoring every hospital in the county, the daily reports, sometimes twice daily reports, if there is a significant occurrence, as to the prime reason for admission through the emergency division. If we see an abnormal response to that, we're alerted to the possibility so something is going on in that area or the general area around those hospitals. So these reports come in daily and alerts us, and when we get that spontaneous response, that's when we begin to look for reasons why we have to seek activation of these supplies. These supplies get shipped to us within 12 hours, and then we have 4 hours to begin the distribution around the county, and the rest of the time is consumed by the dispensing process.
All right, that was perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.